Thank you for the introduction, and very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I think coming after my minister, Chitando, I think he was very clear and eloquent of the investment case for Zimbabwe in terms of mining and minerals exploitation. And I guess the question is that why does he have to really stress such an obvious case like that? And I think it's a situation that we find ourselves in, that time and again we just have to explain to people just how wonderful these opportunities are, and why perhaps we are not getting more interest, especially from this part of the country. So I'm really just going to talk to you here today of perhaps a Zimbabwe that you may have heard of, and I think trying to put into your minds a reality that we believe is not understood by most people in the world. So I'll just speak of three things really, and I'll really try and keep this as short as possible. And the first one is that I believe that we do have a conducive business environment. I think you heard just now how big firms with big assets in Zimbabwe are expanding their operations. I think it's testament to the fact that it's not only the ore that they believe is down there, but also it's worth their while to put more money into that. And then also just something that is little understood, but how we, as the investment promotion agency, literally hold the hands of any investor who wants to come into Zimbabwe. And then we also hear a lot about fears that people have, expropriation, can I get my money out, and things like that. And that's what I would like to end with, that it is a safe environment. It is proven that we do have the systems and the mechanisms to enable that. So yes, I think our history, I think as a country, as far as the economy is concerned, is quite long and elaborate. Peaking, I guess, or rather the worst possible time we all went through was hyperinflation around 2008 and 9. But since then, the economy has been improving, and that's just according to the IMF. I mean, those are our stats in terms of growth over the past 6 years or so. So obviously 2019 and 2020, that's COVID. And we rebounded quite well in 2021. I guess perhaps coming from a low base, so I think that can be expected. But we've stayed above zero up until then. And I think that's good. In particular, if you consider that we are one of those few countries in the world, especially in the developing space, which doesn't get any budget finance or fiscal finance from DFIs. We've not accessed that market for over 25 years. We've done this all by ourselves. So again, it just shows you the resilience and the capability of people on the ground in managing an economy in, well, not really, hostile might be too hard a word, but anyway, we are not viewed favorably in the most parts. So this is what we are achieving. 2026, it's a bit down, but at 4.6, if we look around in our region, in the SADC region in Southern Africa, that's actually higher than anybody else there. And like I said, we are doing this without any of these things. And the factors that are driving this growth is agriculture. It continues to recover. We've dammed a lot of our water bodies, and we didn't have a drought last year, and this year again the focus is that we should get a good rainy season. That's always very good because it means that we don't import as much food, and also our industrial base that is hinged on processing agriculture also does very well. With the current mineral prices, especially of gold, I think you heard from the last presentation, the sort of numbers that we're exporting, 6 billion plus. So I think that also underpins that growth. And the activity that we're seeing in exploration and even in the actual mining in a lot of places is supporting that. And then the stability of the economy itself. I mean, you can imagine that a country like ours coming out of hyperinflation, no international support in terms of financing from the World Bank, IMF, anything like that. So to get to the stage where we are, yes, there have been bumps along the way, but where we are right now, I believe that is testament to the fact that the reforms that we're instituting are good. So we've introduced now a currency since April last year, the Zimbabwe gold, and I think that's been stable. Those who followed our history over the past 10, 15 years or so would know that by now, any new currency that we introduce would have probably lost value, will be a fraction, I think, of what it was worth when it was introduced. But with this one, we've pretty much been stable. And then our business-friendly reforms. So the formation of the agency that I head, the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, again speaks to the fact that we do value investors. We know that investors coming into a jurisdiction, especially in Africa, which I guess is perceived to be fraught with a lot of uncertainties and so forth. So we are there to ensure that, that journey that an investor takes, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in my presentation, is understood and clear from day one. And we do all we can, to the extent that I even fight with my ministers here in my pursuit to protect the rights of investors. So again, just to emphasize the fact that this is an economy that continues to recover with very limited, I think, assistance externally. So again, so even our budgeting or our fiscal responsibility, budget deficit, it's very low. I think there are very few countries in the world who can speak of such. We've even had instances where we were, positive in terms of our budget. And also our current account. So we are again managing the reserves that we've got. So again, that is positive. So all this, I'm simply saying to you that, with such just basic information on a country, there really should be a beeline to Zimbabwe as far as investment is concerned. So I'll just go now to why we exist as an agency, and really is to help you navigate our environment. Not saying that it is unmanageable by yourself, but you can imagine, even me coming here to set up a business in Australia, I'll have to learn a lot of things, how to register a company, where do I get this permit and so forth. So we're set up to ensure that we are that window, that door, that channel that you come through, and once you've come to us, everything else about your experience in Zimbabwe is going to be clear and straightforward. So we were set up in 2020, we became operational in 2020, and we really brought together all the agencies and government units that dealt with investment. So we handle foreign direct investment. We also manage all the public-private partnerships. We are also responsible for licensing and regulating special economic zones. But our mandate really reduces to these three things: that we promote investments in the country. So where possible, we identify where we believe opportunities are, and package those, maybe not to DFS, but at least to some pre-feasibility of sorts, so that investors really get a clear story of the opportunity that we're talking about. And then we also facilitate those investments. So again, like I said earlier on, we literally hold your hand and walk you through all the steps and processes that are required to do so. And more importantly, we protect investors. So our agency does not report to a particular ministry, meaning that we do have access to the highest office in the land. And where necessary, if it means that me and Minister Chitando are not agreeing, on a certain issue where I believe that investor rights are being violated, or pledges that the government of Zimbabwe made at some point in time are not being honored, these are the sort of things that we do. So also because of that, we are also at the forefront of understanding and knowing what investor issues are. So we also help all the government ministries, departments, and agencies in ensuring that in terms of stabilizing that environment and making sure that policies are consistent with investor expectations, before policy is implemented, we do engage all the, those responsible for policy and regulations in ensuring that whatever actions they take are not detrimental to investors. So for us, the journey begins at pre-licensing. So this is where perhaps at an event like this, you hear about Zimbabwe, you are interested, you want to find out more. We tell you of the opportunities that are there. So all those inquiries, we do handle them at the agency. So we also showcase those opportunities, like I said. Even the initial stages of forming a company, incorporating a company in Zimbabwe, that can be done in a matter of hours. getting our own investor license, which is something that we do recommend, that as a foreign investor, if you're coming into the country, that investor license that we issue automatically gives you it's as good as getting work permits and visas for your expatriate staff. And even for investors, we do allow up to 3 investors to get residencies for up to 2 years at a time. So all of those, again, are done at our office. So it's something that we encourage, that by the time we've done the pre-licensing, the licensing itself is a mere formality. Within our office, we do have, and I'll show you in the next slide, up to 19 agencies that are resident within the ZIDA offices. So be it immigration, the tax authorities, the company's office, you want any of those registrations, they can be done in-house. So the licensing for us, again, we do it for you. If it's mining that you want to do, we've got a person from the Ministry of Mines who resides in our office. So again, all the paperwork that you need, all the steps that you need to follow in terms of being permitted can be done within our offices. And then we also help you with establishing your business. So again, this is where, I'm sure you do know that mines don't happen in the city centers, so they happen wherever they are. And in those areas, there are obviously local regulators there. So again, we ensure that nothing trips you up. You don't learn things as you go along, that all of these things are made clear to you up front, that this is what's expected of you. We are there, we don't charge you any fees to do any of these other specific functions. That is our job. And even when renewal comes due, again, we remind you of what you have to submit and so forth. We also handle aftercare. So as much as investors are welcomed into a country, once they start operating, I think sometimes there's a tendency that they left to their own devices, so to speak. And when they do run into problems, there's no one to, come and, find out how things are. So that's what we also do. So we actively have a unit that does that. And then we also monitor and evaluate some projects, especially where there's contracts with governments, to make sure that both parties are upholding their end of the bargain. So if you look at just that slide, there, I would say that there is nothing more really that should be stopping you from coming to Zimbabwe. And we are that person that should anything ever go wrong, again, you do come to us. So those agencies that I was speaking to that are resident in our offices, so you may not know those logos, but anyway, they represent essentially the key ones that any business coming into the country is going to interact with initially, obviously. There are some more specific, sector-specific regulators that you do interact with, but even those we do have relationships with. So I think in terms of how you can actually get started with this, we've automated pretty much all our processes. So this do-it-yourself portal, literally, you can scan that, it will direct you to a page where you literally complete everything from the comfort of your own office, be it here in Perth or anywhere in the world, upload documents, and so that by the time you come, when you land in Zimbabwe, nearly, I'll say 95% of the work has been done. So I think that's, done to that. We also have an investor protection mechanisms. A few weeks ago, we launched, again, it's available on our website, an investor grievance resolution mechanism. So this is where we believe that maybe there's been a misunderstanding between an investor and any arm of government. We encourage you to go to that platform, upload your issue, it comes to us. We promise you response within 24 hours and feedback from that government body within 5 days. And we ensure that within an agreed time, that issue is resolved. It might not be in your favor, but I think what you want to do to know at any point in time is the fact that my issue is being considered. So we launched that, and we literally stick our neck out and say that once you upload your issue there, it will be attended to. Even if it means that we give you all the advice to go to courts and things like that, we are literally on your side. So this is where, I guess, we stop being a government agency and side with the investor. And enshrined in everything that we do is that our investors in our act have a right to certain things, is to establish companies in Zimbabwe with 100% foreign ownership. There is no requirement at all to partner locals. We used to have that piece of legislation, but it was abolished in 2018. You're also free to repatriate all your proceeds. Like I said, the exchange control unit of the central bank is within our office. And so because investors get guidance from day one how this process works, we've never had any issues where investors registered with us have ever complained about their failure to honor their obligations outside, be it to their investors or to their financiers. And you are also free to acquire land for your business. Again, it's freehold property is something that we do. You also have a right to access to information. So on this one, we, again, very recently in August, we launched an e-regulations portal, which is the first stage in a much more elaborate endeavor where everything about licensing in Zimbabwe will be done online. But the first part of this one just explains any process. So if you want to set up a shop, say in the city of Bulawayo, say, it will tell you step by step what forms you fill, what those forms look like, who you call, and after that form has been filled, where does it go, and so forth, and all the fees you are paying. And then you also have a right to engage with us, that we will never say to you that we are busy, we can't see you, and so forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, really, with that, it's just a teaser of what we do. And really, the fears that you may be harboring or you've heard about Zimbabwe, we just want to debunk those myths and say to yourself, give us a try, come to this land. And I think it's time that you also realize that it's got huge potential. And in my view, I think you're missing out on an opportunity that you may look back 20 years from now and say, oh my God, I should have gone to Zimbabwe way back then. So there's that portal, the e-regulations. And I thank you.